A ship drifts through the darkness like it's half asleep. Space is quiet. Really quiet. 7 people wake up. They think they're safe. They're not. And right in the middle of it is a woman who changed a whole genre. This is Ellen Ripley. She was never meant to be a lesbian icon. She wasn't even meant to be a woman. And yet, here we are. And sci-fi was changed forever. When Alien was written, Ripley was written as a man. Not for any specific reason, it's just how things were back then. That was just how Hollywood worked. Most heroes were men, most workers in space were men, and most survivors were men. Ridley Scott, however, decided to fly in the face of convention and defy sci-fi stereotypes by making her a woman. The filmmakers also originally wanted a sex scene between Dallas and Ripley, not because the story needed it at all, not because it told us anything about her, but just because Hollywood assumed that if a man and a woman were alone in space, something romantic should happen. Sigourney Weaver fought that idea. She fought it hard, and she won. And that choice has reshaped Ripley forever. Without that fight, Ripley would have become softer, more conventional, more woman in a man's story. Instead, she stays exactly who she is, a professional, a survivor, and a person, not a fantasy. This was in big part aided by the fact that the dialogue remained mostly unchanged from the script written for Ripley as a man. When Weaver was cast, something quite magical happened. Not in the script, but in how we see the character. Ripley isn't flashy and she doesn't perform toughness, she just is tough. She just does her job. When the crew argue, she's staying there steady. When they're all panicking, she's thinking. And when danger arrives, she just gets on and deals with it. That stillness is rare on screen. Hollywood often shows strong women by making them loud or angry or aggressive. Ripley isn't like that. Her strength is quiet. It shows fear, but she doesn't become crippled by it. She can listen, she can watch, and she can make a decision. And that quiet competence is where many of us completely fell in love with Ellen Ripley. On screen, Hollywood gave us a very specific image. A capable worker, a clear head in a crisis, and a woman who doesn't crack under pressure. The uniform is simple, there's no glamour, no sexualization, no performance of femininity in it. It's exactly the same as the men's. The camera doesn't treat her like a decoration, it doesn't linger on her body too long for admiration's sake. She moves through the ship like she belongs there, because she does. In the final act, she strips down to practical clothes, underclothes. It was meant as a little nod to the male audience, but it was acceptable, and more importantly, it was plausible. It at least felt real. But images carry meaning, whether filmmakers intend them to or not. Many lesbian viewers saw something in the character right away. We saw a woman who could be flexible, a woman who could carry on despite the fear, and a woman who could survive whatever life threw at her. That mattered to us, and yes, it didn't hurt that she was gorgeous and had legs up to her armpits. But what makes Ripley different is this. She's beautiful without being offered to anyone. The film never tries to sell her to the viewer. The camera doesn't slow down and linger or invite possession or lechery. So when we admired her, it didn't feel like we were being told that we should, and that distinction is quite key. Look at how she relates to the male crew. She doesn't charm or flirt with them. She doesn't soothe them with soft feminine words. And she gives them a kick up the backside and tells them to just get on with it. She states facts. They ignore her. People die. Over and over. Many of us recognise that dynamic. A woman whose authority gets dismissed until it's too late and the only one left standing is you and the cat. When Ripley survives, she survives on her own terms. No romantic reward, no soft makeover, no, now you can relax and be gentle. Just hard, gritty survival and quiet dignity. She didn't feel like a fantasy. She felt like someone who could actually exist in the world. Here's the tension at the heart of Ripley. Hollywood didn't create her as a lesbian icon. Lesbian audiences just decided she was going to be one. The studio wanted a gender-neutral hero who just happened to be played by a woman. We saw a woman who moved through the world without centering on men. They saw practicality, we saw independence. They saw survival, we saw a total badass. They initially tried to insert romance, Weaver removed it. They made a worker in space, and we saw a reflection of ourselves. That gap between what was intended and what we read is where Ripley truly lives. In Aliens, the whole story turned on one decision. The Marines are sent in with a clear mission: rescue the colony, follow orders, get the hell out. Then Ripley meets Newt, and she refuses to leave her behind. There isn't some grand speech about it, there's no dramatic gestures, just a decision that didn't even need to be considered. Because of that, the entire mission changed. They go back in, they risk everything, and then they move from procedure to protection. Hollywood often uses motherhood to soften women characters, to make them more gentle, more passive, more traditional. Ripley doesn't shrink because of her mothering instincts. She gets even sharper and more focused. She doesn't disappear into motherhood, she just is a mother. It's just part of who she is. You don't leave a child to become dinner for a horde of rampaging aliens. You just don't. Again, many of us recognise that. Ripley's body is treated differently from most women in sci-fi. The camera doesn't dress her up, and it doesn't slow down to admire her. It doesn't ask her to change herself to please anybody. Even when she is vulnerable, the framing is practical rather than erotic. That choice, intentional or not, made her safer for us to claim. She wasn't placed inside a visual language built for male desire. She could exist outside of it. That gave lesbian viewers room to breathe, room to see ourselves in her or imagine her as one of us. There wasn't much of that about in the 70s and 80s. Ripley's power comes partly from accident. She wasn't designed as representation, and she wasn't written to speak for us specifically. And she definitely wasn't crafted with us in mind. And yet, somehow she ended up being all of those things. Sometimes representation arrives loud and deliberate, and sometimes it arrives quiet and unintended. Ripley belongs to the second kind. Her importance isn't in labels, it's in how she behaves, how she carries herself, how she copes with adversity. That makes her more than a symbol. It makes her a model. Not perfect, not flawless, but real. After Alien, many films tried to copy Ripley. Most of them missed the point. They copied the toughness, but not the stillness. They copied the survival, but they missed out on the calm. They made women louder or sharper or flashier, but Ripley was never any of those things. Her strength was quiet and determined, and that's why she lasted. Decades later, people still come back to her, Not because she wins every fight, but because she feels true. True to how power can look in a woman, and true to how many of us actually move through the world. Ellen Ripley was never in as one of us, but we adopted her anyway. Hollywood made a survivor, and we made an icon. And that accident is actually the most hopeful thing of all, because it reminds us that meaning doesn't only come from intent. It comes from however and wherever we choose to find it. Ripley drifted through space by chance, and she landed right here with us. Thank you for spending this time with me.